Okay, a while back, we decided that October was going to be the month that we did nothing but scary themed verses. I'd say horror themed verses, but I can't really say that. But I guess it's a feeling of foreboding that there's definitely horror involved in these verses, correct?
Sure.
So I gave you guys a cryptic comment of family. There's only one thing that comes to mind when you think family in horror movies. We have the Sawyer family and we have the Firefly family. It's the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre taking on Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. AJ, take it away.
Alright. Well, for starters, I always said that I don't know how other people feel about this. I never really researched it. But House of a Thousand Corpses was basically meant to be a giant homage to Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, without question.
To be totally honest, I've always seen House of a Thousand Corpses as pretty much a very loose remake.
I can see that.
More or less. But there's a lot of differences that I'll go into, so
okay.
That. Like I said, the horror ones I won't necessarily slip into categories. I'll just... Because the whole point is which one works more.
So we're going to have like a college-style analysis of both films and determine which one is scarier at the end. Yeah. Just like we did last week.
Or in Mr. Shoop's summer school class, analyzing.
Yes.
Summer school reference. It had to be thrown in there. Like the tension breaker.
Mark Harmon for the win.
I'll go ahead and start with...
Chainsaw loved it. Yes.
Alright. I'll start with Texas Chainsaw, which is... Everybody knows the story. This is the ultimate teenagers in a van going to places they shouldn't be, getting slaughtered movie. By people that work in a slaughterhouse, more or less.
Loosely based off the life of Ed Gein.
Yeah, whose life is briefly talked about in the murder right in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
Course. This is basically a lot of... I don't want to make it sound like I don't want this to sound like a bad thing. If you talk to most like film school students and film scholars and all of them, they'll tell you that the quintessential horror movie in the slasher genre is this one.
Okay.
It's basically a battle between this and Halloween is what people will do. But this is basically known for being the... of course, this was before... I think I made a mistake in an earlier video. I said something about Halloween being the start of everything because it was 1978.
Yeah, this is 1976, isn't it?
Which I always forget. I always forget Leatherface. I'm sorry.
He is displeased.
Clearly.
Look at his face. He's ready to come for you.
But no, the interesting thing about this movie is, normally when you see old horror movies that show their age, it's kind of a bad thing, and people see them as cheesy and kind of dismiss them.
Like the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Watching it now, it comes off very cheesy.
But ask anybody. The older and more grainy and dirty and like just beaten to shit your copy of Texas Chainsaw looks, the creepier and scarier it is.
Yeah, agree.
Because it really brings a realness out in it. Because it's almost like I wouldn't go as far as like Cannibal Holocaust, but it almost kind of feels like some kind of snuff movie.
You're watching a snuff film, exactly.
Because the characters are, caricatures more or less, but they're, the characters that really get fleshed out are, I lost her name. Sally. I think it's Sally. Yes, and her brother Franklin, the guy in the wheelchair. They have 3 more people in their group, which are Jerry, Kirk, and Pam. Yes. I'm going to pretend like I'm not reading that. It's confusing because there's also a character named Jerry in House of a Thousand Corpses, of course.
I wonder why.
I thought I was getting them mixed up, that's why I had to double check. But, so yeah, and of course, there's the infamous scene where they pick up the hitchhiker, whose name we learn later is Nubbins. Actually, I don't think we ever learned that. I think it's just a known fact now in horror fan bases. I don't think any names were ever actually revealed. Apart from the kids. But yeah, there's a lot of it's a lot different from the hitchhiker scene in the remake, which it might surprise you to learn. Apparently, a lot of like the official remake, the one with Jessica Biel.
Yeah.
Apparently, a lot of people who are fans of the original actually really take to the remake though.
Yeah, the remake's really good.
Which you wouldn't think normally. So I suppose that speaks about the story itself.
It's the polar opposite of what you would expect.
See, I guess that speaks always about the story itself, that people will take to it in most of its variations. Leaving out, like, the Next Generation with Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, which I think it's actually a guilty pleasure for me, but I get why people think it's bullshit. Anyway, so they pick up Mullins, and he's talking about how his family works at the slaughterhouse. He's got this weird fucking mark across his face. And he grabs Franklin's knife and just slices into his hand, just to bleed. And then he takes a picture of Franklin and demands money for it, and when they won't pay him, he, while they're in the car, he puts it looks like maybe gunpowder or something onto the picture, and he sets it on fire, and more or less blows it up. And they throw him out of the van, and he uses the blood on his hand to make a mark on their van as they're driving away. Like, they're marked for death, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of the horoscope stuff in this, too. Like, Pam reads Franklin's horoscope, and it's not good.
Yeah.
And, of course, Franklin doesn't turn out well. And then we go into this. They meet this guy at the gas station that runs a barbecue joint. Clearly, as you start to piece things together, what's going on, you start to realize this is basically the ultimate, this is a popular thing in horror movies now, but this is basically the end-all be-all of horror movies where you cannot trust anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Every single person you come in contact with is guilty and will kill you.
Yeah.
And it turns out they're all part of this family, of course. Where they have Leatherface, and for the longest, we don't know any relation. We don't know Nubbins is related to them. We don't know the gas station guy's related to them. We know nothing of Grandpa yet. All we know is that Leatherface is in this house and he's killing them. Like, he hits Kirk over the head, and then he takes Pam and puts her on, like, the meat hook, and then makes her watch, while hanging on the meat hook, as he cuts Kirk into pieces with the chainsaw. All enough while not showing anything. There's not really much on-screen gore.
No.
It's more of the there's plenty of discussing things. I don't know what it is about them, but the reason Texas Chainsaw really digs deep into me, for some reason I can't take skeletons.
Really?
I don't know why, they just fucking creep me out and I don't like looking at them. Any kind of skeleton. Honestly, I'd rather see a human skeleton than an animal skeleton. There's something really fucking freaking me out about animal skeletons that I don't like.
I understand that.
There's just bones and skeletons and shit all over this fucking movie.
Well, yeah.
They've even made, I think it's when Pam stumbles into the room and she sees they've made a couch out of bones. And they've made, like, this bone chandelier that hangs from the ceiling. And it's really, there's also a bone chandelier in House of 1,000 Corpses. Maybe I'm mistaken the two. I'm getting, that's how close they are. I keep fucking confusing them when I'm trying to talk about one or the other.
That's why we're doing this versus, folks, because it's so easy to confuse them sometimes.
Yeah. So anyway, obviously we finally get to the point where we realize that, just when we've come to terms with the fact that Leatherface is the one trying to kill everybody, and what's fucking freaky about him is,
everything?
I know you're not Leatherface's biggest fan.
Nope.
For starters, obviously he wears human faces over his own. Another thing that comes back in House of 1,000 Corpses.
Yep.
But the thing is, and he's also not all there. He speaks in squeals, which is really fucking creepy. He doesn't say one actual word. He just speaks in these animal noises, more or less. He's basically the mentally handicapped brother of the group. Which is weird because we think the whole time he's the major threat. but he's just, you know, the dumb little brother that needs to stay off to the side. When the brains of the operation are the guy at the gas station and Nubbins and, I guess, what's left of Grandpa. And of course, you know, obviously this movie is known for being really, like, I guess practically guerrilla style. I think that's how you say the word. It's like, not like calm, but like, you know, like raw footage. With real, you know, injuries and shit and real screaming. Like Marilyn Barnes is actually on the commentary, and apparently she didn't have too bad of an experience because she's on the commentary and she has a cameo in the most recent Texas Chainsaw movie. She and Gunnar Hansen have cameos at the very beginning.
Yep.
But no, this and then it just goes really hardcore because once she goes to the gas station guy for help, and that's where she gets taken and thrown in the truck and taken to the house where she's taken to the dinner table. And I'd say one of the most landmark scenes in horror movie history is this fucking dinner table.
Yeah.
We have Grandpa in the end. Well, first off, she finds Grandpa in the upstairs, and we see who I'm assuming is Grandma. Grandma's actually dead and has been decomposing for a while, and they have a dog. I don't know what's up with the dog. I don't think the dog's decomposing, but there's some skin and hair there, and there's some bone there. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if they had like a dog skeleton that they put skin over, or what. I don't know what. Oh, good God. And Grandpa's sitting there in this room with them. He's still alive, despite the fact that he looks like he's got. They don't explain what the fuck happened to him. He looks like he's 300 fucking years old.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's wearing another person's skin.
It's possible.
I don't know, or he's just that fucking old. I don't know because the family members aren't that old. Maybe they call him Grandpa. Maybe he's like a great grandpa that's somehow still alive. I don't know, but that's another thing that's so fucking freaky is none of this shit's explained. We just fucking see it, and we live with the fact that it's there.
Yes, and there's nothing we can do about it either.
And then of course the scene where they try to get Grandpa to. Apparently Grandpa could like just kill things with one whack and could kill like a bunch of things within seconds. And they're trying to let him relive his glory days by beating Sally to death with a hammer. But he keeps fucking dropping it because he can't hold it himself because he's just that fucking
old and decrepit.
Yeah. And then of course Sally escapes, and you have the landmark scene that's in that. There's two landmark scenes in this movie. This one the most. This especially featured in American Psycho while he works out. Most famous scene in the movie, or any movie, even without horror, just in general, the scene of Sally getting in the back of that truck and escaping Leatherface. It's this really fucked up scene that's a whole bunch of shit going on. Like I said, what were we talking about? Funny games, what I talking about.
Yeah.
And Halloween. The craziest shit in horror movies happens during the day.
Yeah.
It's dawn. She's been in the house all night, and she's finally escaped, and the sun is coming up. And she stops this truck driver to help her. And right in the middle of this street, in broad daylight, Leatherface is chasing her. This truck driver gets out of the car. I hate to taint the scene like this, but to be honest, I don't know why the truck driver didn't just drive away.
Yeah.
Because they were in the truck, and then Leatherface started to saw at it, and they went out the other side. Whatever. And then you have this truck pulling up that Sally eventually jumps in the back of and escapes. You have this truck driver running away from his truck. You have Sally running towards this truck. And you have Leatherface in the middle of the street swinging his chainsaw around, trying to figure out where he's going to go. This is all in one shot, too.
Yeah.
And finally, I don't know what happened to the truck driver, but he threw something at Leatherface, and Leatherface fell and accidentally cut his own leg. But he's fine. He didn't cut it off or anything.
Well, he's okay. Don't worry about him.
So Sally jumps in the back of this truck and drives off, and she's like hysterical. She's gone completely insane because of this ordeal. And she's covered in blood, and she's like shrieking with laughter. And the final shot is this shot of Leatherface just running around the street, swinging his chainsaw around. And then we cut to black. So yeah, this
That's pretty much the movie, and it's not in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I went through in 15 minutes time. And that's basically how Texas Chainsaw always has. What's the word I'm looking for? Infamous as it is. Now talking about a few things that are effective, we have like the thing about the Firefly family is real people. I guess their minds may be in different places, but they're real people. When we see Leatherface is almost like a monster because we never see his real face. And like I said, he doesn't speak in words; he speaks in like animal noises. And we get a close-up of his mouth at one point, and his teeth are like jagged. Not like the dog tooth, but like all of his teeth are just jagged from front to back. And that's a freaky image.
Yeah, it is.
We have this moment where obviously we have John Larroquette's now infamous narration of the opening text. And then we go into that very famous, unmistakable sound of the camera flashing.
Yep.
Which takes us into the grave robbing scene. So, which is never really explained, but like that's what this movie does. The shit that's not explained is the scariest shit.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes that doesn't work, but when movies do it right, like this one does, and it's all within that atmosphere, it's just somebody described this movie as exhausting. It's an hour and 24 minutes. That's with credits. So, to be able to do that in that small span of time. And they even use it to, like, a degree, not just the camera flashing, but, like, there's a particular jarring moment that always scares the shit out of me, even though I always know it's coming. That was kind of called back on in the new one. We don't know where Pam is not on the meat hook, and we don't know where she is. But then finally we see I can't remember, I think it's Sally's walking through the house, and she opens the freezer, and we see Pam laying in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pam jumps up. We think she's fucking dead because number one, she looks like she's frozen, and number two, we saw her ass on a meat hook. Maybe that wasn't even Pam. I don't know. But regardless, the body jumps up. But when the body jumps up, it brings back the camera flashing sound, which brought a whole new eeriness to it that didn't make it your traditional jump scare, but made it an effective one. Then, of course, there's the characters that get you to care about them. Like I said, the only characters that really get fleshed out are Sally and Franklin. And Franklin is this really, really annoying tag-along character that's constantly complaining. Obviously, he's in a wheelchair, so though he doesn't want to be or mean to be, he's obviously an inconvenience. And there's this one particular scene where she just really starts to go off. She's been the understanding one. That's how you like when you're in a normal horror movie like this and you have all these characters, you generally do have two characters that are siblings.
Mm-hmm.
But you can never, because the characters aren't fleshed out enough and there's really no camaraderie or companionship, you can't really tell which characters are which related and who they're related to.
Okay.
With these five in the van, it's clear who the brother and sister are because you always have... She's always the one that's like, dealt with him, obviously, her whole life. So she's like got this patience with him where everybody else kind of makes fun of him. But then there's this one particular moment where everybody else is dead and they're in the middle of the forest, and one of the dead guys has the key, so they're stuck there and they have to go get them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to go through the forest to the house to find them. And it's nighttime, of course.
Of course.
And Franklin doesn't want to be left alone in the dark, so he demands he keep the flashlight. And she says, I'm going through the forest, I have to take the flashlight. He starts begging her to take him with her because he doesn't want to stay alone in the forest.
Yeah.
So he's begging her to keep the flashlight, then he's begging her to not go, and then finally she just snaps and says, I can't push you up the hill. I cannot take you with me. And it's this really emotional moment you don't kind of expect. It just kind of comes from out of nowhere. Because you don't really see the sibling characters react to each other in movies like this that often. That's what I liked about what Your Next did most recently. it had family characters that actually realistically reacted to what was happening to their family. Because in most horror movies, family members can get picked off, and the other family members just kind of go along with it because the movie has to progress. No time for emotions. We got to get to the killing.
Exactly.
This movie, that one particular scene really shows the brother-sisterhood between them. And then, of course, one of the things that drives her insane is seeing him fucking chainsaw helplessly because he can't move anywhere else. I suppose lastly I'd like to point out the interesting thing is the scary thing about Leatherface is when you're being chased by him, number one, he always seems to find you. And number two, obviously he's like very determined. Like once he realizes he wants to find you, he's gonna find you. This is the thing. He's very slow, obviously. He's got like practically got nothing going on up here. He's got his face obscured because he's covered in other people's skin. He's a big guy, and he's holding a chainsaw. But somehow he moves really fast.
Yeah, he's like lightning quick.
Even when the thing is on, he's still running flawlessly with it, and will find you and catch up to you. So, that's pretty much everything that makes Texas Chainsaw terrifying, in a nutshell. And it had sequels, you know. The sequels weren't as bad as they would have made it out to be, but they clearly did not reach this level at all. Now, House of a Thousand Corpses, like I said, it's basically one giant homage. But you have you have similar characters. You have the hitchhiker character who is Baby in this one. And you have, which is interesting because Otis is kind of like Nubbins a little bit. But that's what's interesting. I gotta bring that up. The connection here. In the sequel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the one that starred Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Bill Moseley, who plays Otis in House of a Thousand Corpses, played a character named Chop Top. Most people assume that Chop Top was Nubbins from the first movie because the movie ends with Nubbins getting hit and mauled by a truck. And Chop Top is this. He's kind of like half human, half zombie, and he's got this massive plate on top of his head. People assumed that Chop Top was Nubbins, but apparently Tobe Hooper said that Chop Top is actually Nubbins' twin brother, and Chop Top was in Vietnam at the time Texas Chainsaw was taking place, and Vietnam was where he had his problem with his head. Something about a Vietnamese guy with a machete or something. So yeah, there's an immediate connection there. That Bill Moseley, who is Otis in House of a Thousand Corpses, has also been part of the Sawyer family in his career. I would also like to mention another great testament to this being an homage to Texas Chainsaw is Tobe Hooper actually has a comment on the back of the DVD case that says "One hell of a great horror movie." So that's probably worth noting. He's also Tobe Hooper's also the director of Poltergeist. That's probably worth mentioning. So he knows what he's doing. Even if he did I think he did Toolbox Murders or something.
Yes.
Regardless, but the interesting thing about House of a Thousand Corpses is it's got its own creepy character traits. Like, you have Captain Spaulding, who's basically works as the gas station guy. Captain Spaulding works at the gas station. Among other things, he's got the fried chicken joint, he's got the murder ride, he's got the museum. Captain Spaulding's a great character.
Yes, he is.
And you have Otis and Baby, and then you have Mama, you have Tiny, you have RJ. RJ, who never came back for Devil's Rejects for some reason, no, I think he died in the ambush. Yeah, I remember that now. So there's a lot more of them, and you have the grandpa guy too, the stand-up comedian guy. So you have a lot more of them, and then you have this whole Dr. Satan mythology. You don't know for sure for most of the movie if Dr. Satan is real or not. But then we go into this whole different thing. Like, props to House of a Thousand Corpses for being this massive, almost clone of Texas Chainsaw, but then managing to take it in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
Despite the ending. The ending actually makes me interested. the ending is exactly like Texas Chainsaw's ending. All the stuff has happened, and then finally, Aaron Daniels escapes, and she gets in a car and drives off. But it's Captain Spaulding driving it, and then of course Otis pops out from the backseat, and we see her in Dr. Satan's lair, and that's how the movie ends. It almost makes me wonder if it was Rob Zombie suggesting Sally wasn't as safe as we thought she was when they cut to black. Because the guy in the truck could not have been somebody safe. Because like we were saying, this is the ultimate trust no one movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't remember if Texas Chainsaw 2 answered that or not. I haven't seen it in so long, but that's a theory you can throw out there.
Makes sense.
Maybe Zombie was suggesting. But no, when it really goes off the rails is, obviously it's, they deal with the family, they do their little show thing, and they keep them in rooms and dungeons and stuff like that, and they do the fish boy thing with Rainn Wilson, which is fucking weird. They play that version of Brick House while they cut him up, and then they've somehow sewed or melded or welded or something the top half of his body with the bottom half of a giant fish. I don't know. And they cut his hand off too. And then they dress the other three, and it's worth noting the other guy Jerry is Chris Hardwick, who does like Talking Bad and Talking Dead and all that. A lot of people don't like him because he's annoying.
Singled out. That's how I know him, and he's also Stacey Jack's Rock of Ages.
Yeah, that's right. And he's the most annoying character in this movie. And that's the problem, is Texas Chainsaw makes characters that it's kind of sad when you see them die. Especially the brother.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was Zombie's intention or what, but the characters in House of Thousand Corpses are so annoying. Okay, so they die horribly. Okay. I'm not going to shed a tear. Though it is freaky what happens. Like, if you go into, like, your human self and you say, regardless of how fucking annoying and unlikable and just aggravating these characters were, as a human, being in their situation, that would be unbearably freaky.
Yeah.
What they do to Chris Hardwick is they have him, he's on Dr. Satan's table, and they have him cut open, and they basically dig through his insides until he spits blood everywhere and dies. This happens while he's still alive. Yes. But then, okay, well, I've been saying this. The big difference is the title is not just a cool sounding title. That title refers to, what happens is they have Jerry and they have Aaron Daniels in this coffin, and they're going to bury them alive. But, she manages to escape. What's Aaron Daniels' character's name?
Denise.
Okay. Denise manages to escape, and she goes through this underground tunnel and all that. And there's just, she just finds all kinds of shit. This is when it turns into, what's interesting is, I said the interesting thing was, they're human, they're not actual monsters. I was talking about that with Leatherface's teeth. Well, when she goes underground, House of Thousand Corpses turns into a monster movie.
Mm-hmm.
You have Dr. Satan. You have those weird guys who are sitting there watching TV, and like the Munsters is on. And then we see Carl, I think is his name. Carl is supposedly the father of everybody. I don't know. We don't know how or who they're related to. In Devil's Rejects, it makes you assume that Captain Spaulding is the father of everybody. But obviously Otis, I think, would be too old to be Captain Spaulding's son, but whatever. But what it makes you... We don't know exactly... And with House of Thousand Corpses, we don't know how Captain Spaulding's related to them. Because we don't know he's related to them until the last shot. And nothing's said about it, obviously, because the movie fucking ends.
Mm. But
we're led to believe in Karen Black's story that Carl is the father of them. And Carl is this giant... If you remember the Juggernaut... not the Juggernaut. The Hammer ghost from 13 Ghosts. That's kind of what he's like. And he's kind of got the My Bloody Valentine mask. And he's just this huge monster. And he's got, like... He takes his mask off and he spits out what looks like the yellow of raw eggs or something. It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
and he's like deformed. He's clearly not human, but we don't know what he is. Of course, they build him up for nothing because he takes one swing at Denise and everything collapses. He dies by the aggravatingly anticlimactic death of the Super Shredder. Everything just collapses on him.
Yep.
Nobody could have survived that. Apparently. So, going back to, we saw Machete earlier, Walton Goggins plays the other cop with Tom Tolles. Obviously, Tom Tolles plays the character that's the brother of William Forsythe's character from The Devil's Rejects, which completely sets off The Devil's Rejects' story. That's another story for another day. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw is great with what it does, and it takes you to the dinner table scene, and you just feel like you completely descended into hell and you can't get out.
Yeah.
But props to House of Thousand Corpses for just going in just this really insane. It's definitely, that's where Rob Zombie's good inventions came in. I really wish he made stuff like this in The Devil's Rejects now. You know, I think Lords of Salem tried, but I don't think he's going to reach what he did with this in The Devil's Rejects. The way they just descended into this whole other world. How they managed to take this perfectly real movie, and by the end of it is this really hardcore monster movie. It is just, with just this flawless transition too. It's like, she just, like, they've been underground this whole time, just doing God knows what, and you have this whole hallway of corpses. I believe that would be the title, 1,000 Corpses. And there are just these decomposed corpses just making the walls in this very long underground hallway, and that's just
unsettling.
The movie's fucking wild, and I love it for it. A lot of people don't like. Apparently, it's not very well liked, but I love. They also have this interchanging bit where there's this guy, Dr. Wolfenstein, I think his name is, and he like has this show, kind of like Robert Prosky was doing in Gremlins too. This low budget show, like Elvira, and he does that in between. That's good. Just everything that's great about horror movies is kind of wrapped up in a nice bow in House of 1,000 Corpses. Having said that, there would be no House of 1,000 Corpses without the masterpiece, the horror masterpiece that is Texas Chainsaw. And there's just no beating the original Texas Chainsaw in this particular genre. So, that's basically my verdict.
Okay.
House of 1,000 Corpses is absolutely fantastic, and this magnificent horror movie. Like I said, the director of Texas Chainsaw, what's the word I'm looking for? He supports it, basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, if you want to go hardcore and unsettling and just really takes you to the depths of being creeped out like no other, it would be Texas Chainsaw. Because here's the thing, House of 1,000 Corpses actually isn't all that scary, but it's undeniably entertaining as fuck.
Yeah.
But if you want really hardcore scary, definitely go with the original Texas Chainsaw.
Alright. So, are we going to discuss a little bit about the the remakes and how they compare to the original?
Like I said, there's not really one I think the only Texas Chainsaw movie I didn't really like was Leatherface, which is the third one. The third one with Viggo Mortensen in it. But where he's basically the "you can trust me," "oh no you can't, I'm part of the family" character. You know, there's there's the second one with Dennis Hopper, there's the third one, there's The Next Generation with McConaughey, then there's the remake, and there is the prequel to the remake, and then there's the newest one, Texas Chainsaw, which came out this year. They're all, none of them are great except for this one. If I say I like them all, it's in a guilty pleasure way.
Okay.
So, yeah, also, shit, I was gonna bring something up, now what was it? I lost it. Shit. Oh, yeah, it was something about, I think there's a I think there is a character, and I'm drawing a blank now. Oh, shit. I think there is a... Okay, let me just look at the castles here. Get back to Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, that's fine.
I might be making a point here. Hold on. Alright, let's see here. Ah, shit. Alright, let me just say what I thought I was going to say. You can correct me if I have something confused here. I'm pretty sure I heard there was a character named Hartman in Texas Chainsaw. It might have been the, I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's a character named Hartman in Texas Chainsaw because I remember in my head saying, maybe it's an intentional thing because the sheriff in the remake is played by Arlie Ermy. Obviously, Arlie Ermy is known for being in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
As Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. So maybe there's like some in-joke in there in between. Yeah, it was the new one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's unrelated. That's what I was thinking of. Okay, so going off for a second, when we're talking about the remakes and the new ones, Paul Ray's character, who is the mayor, who is the corrupt one that runs everything, is named Bert Hartman. In the remake, the sheriff who runs everything but is evil is played by Arlie Ermy, whose most famous role is Hartman in Full Metal Jacket.
There we go.
I wonder if the new Texas Chainsaw was referencing Full Metal Jacket and the remake.
Potentially.
I might be reaching here, but it made sense to me when I was thinking of it earlier.
Alright, fair enough.
Yes, okay.
So ends another scary verses. So next week, we're going to be going into Daylight. That's going to be your cryptic comment for next week. So AJ, any parting words?
Nope.